All right, guys, it is Thursday afternoon. Back out here. I haven't filmed in the last couple of days of work. After work, I've been coming out here and doing some light prep stuff, mostly in regards to the number one rib and other shenanigans involved. I didn't really record any of it. Some of it I will record on the right wing because it's somewhat necessary, but it's nothing crazy, and it's nothing that's not discussed in the manual or on another video. One thing I wanted to kind of go over is the aileron brackets, just so during this process you guys don't forget. I didn't forget, but I just want to bring more attention to it. It's best to do as many things before you put that number one rib on as you can. It just makes it easier down the line. So on the tank, I tapped the NPT fittings and then threaded the fittings in, put the tank on the wing, and then I measured and placed the number one rib where it needs to go, and then I checked all the fittings to make sure that they weren't going to have any interference with the number one rib assembly. This is pretty darn important, I would say. It'll be different on the standard wing, but I don't know to what regard. I know when I was looking for pictures of what I was supposed to be looking at, I couldn't find any. So when I get the number one rib on and I put the tank on with the fittings, I will definitely make sure to get a good spread of that area because there are no good pictures anywhere. So I put the tank on, NPT fittings, made sure that there was enough clearance around all the ribs, and I took off extra material to make sure. Not everybody is going to do what I'm going to do, is I'm going to put something on that inner number one rib just to clean it up. You can see all the webbing inside from the lightning holes. I guess that's what they are. So I butchered those pretty bad. I'm sure I could make them look nice with a little bit of sanding, but I'm not going to. I will definitely be putting something up there. I'm not sure what yet. I don't have to decide right now. Might just be a piece of carbon fiber that I cut out to go in there, and then put the fuel placard sign over it. But here in a second, I will show you guys where I'm at right now. I did mess up the filler web rib, so I'm gonna have to use the right wings while I order another one. I got a little happy with the Dremel, and the area I cut for the relief on the sight gauge NPT fitting, I just went too high, and now it's above the transition rib. That's what it's called. I'm looking right here on this page of the settings. So this middle rib right here, I butchered that one, and now there's a gap above this little transition rib. That is not the butt rib, I found out. There is number one rib, the filler, then the transition rib, and then the butt rib. I did not realize that that was all there, but now I do. I did put the strut on briefly, and it was not going to allow me to swing the wing back and forth. I put it up on this side, you can see it. I put it up on these ropes, and it's screwed through. The wing's not super heavy, so I'm not super worried about it. It's held on back here, it's held on up here, and then I just rested on the wings, or on the fuselage, so there's some weight there. It only gets really heavy when I put the tank on, so I'll probably have to adjust this a little bit when I do get the tank on. But I have a little bit for now, and it won't matter as much then because I won't be moving the wing back and forth to put these ribs in the tank and check everything. I can Once I get the number 1 rib on and the butt rib, I can put the strut on and just leave the strut on, and then maybe just put a rope around the outside just to keep it from tipping because it's not balanced. Which is what I was originally going to do, but then I realized that I need to take the wing off and back on kind of repeatedly to fit that number 1 rib and get all those measurements done before I glue it. This is what I was talking about, to make sure that you get in before you get the rib on the plane. And on my left wing, it'll be like this, and then this one is the new one that I will need to varnish still. But so this would come in like this, and this guy comes over top like so. It doesn't say in the manual, but for me, it made sense to cut almost all the way down here to the cap strip. I'm almost all the way, because where my fitting comes out, which is right here for the main fuel line, to keep the line in a more downhill orientation, I had to go down, or else it would have had to come uphill. So it would have come out, back, up and over this area here. This one was cut a little bit. There's a little notch here. I had to notch the number 1 rib, but after talking to somebody, I found it made more sense to go all the way down just to make sure that would clear. And I may be wrong there. It may not matter, that little kind of bend up, but I'm getting ready to glue this in. This is the flapper-on stiffener for the flapper-on location. The number 1 rib, it gets attached to here, comes right in from the top. But 3 holes, Hysol rivet. Highly suggest doing this before you put it on the plane. If you put it on the plane and then put that on the plane, you're in trouble. So in your order of operations, and it says this in the manual as well, it does remind you. It does remind you in the manual. I circled it. There's a warning here. There's a warning there. I put arrows to it. I just wanted to make sure. Okay. Ouch. Grab these. By the way, guys, as I'm clecoing this in, when you cleco through a Hysol, it tends to bind up the clecos. So what I've done in the past, well, when I did the other parts of the wing, I would grab a little thing of denatured alcohol, and as soon as I'm done with the cleco, I throw it right in the denatured alcohol, kind of swoosh it around a little bit. So yeah, I throw it around the denatured alcohol just a little bit to get it nice and wet. Then I just wipe it off really good, and it seems to keep them pretty good. I've also kind of kept those in their own little pile. That way, I can reuse those for Hysol specifically, and I don't gum up new ones. Rather, ungummed up ones, I guess, would be the way to put it. Oh, kick the camera. I'm riveting from this side specifically because this is the side that's going to face the inside of the plane. So grab this guy next, and you can see that's all nice and gunked up. So yeah, I just throw a little bit of denatured alcohol, kind of flop it around in there, and then I just let it sit in there while I'm finishing what I'm working on. Since Hysol has a definite bit of a time time barrier where you don't want to, leave it too long. It starts getting hard, and I want to definitely get this wiped down a little bit. Yeah, that one's really nice and gummy too. So looking at this, if you look, that doubler is barely sticking out. That doubler is out by a whole lot. So I had a question that pertained to that, is that does it matter as long as it's 35.5 inches from the center of number 3? It doesn't matter. One thing also to note that I didn't realize, let me move some stuff out of the way here, is that the spars are of different lengths. The back spar is a 1/2 inch out from the front spar, which is exactly what I'm seeing on the doublers. You can see now with that knowledge that the doublers are like right where they need to be. I've measured probably 4 times, so I'm going to put Hysol on this number 1 rib finally. Just on this side, the front and the back, because when we bring in the other ribs, the filler and the transition rib, I'll Hysol the other side at that point. So the direction is the same. Guys, one thing I've noticed when you're doing Hysol fillets like this, whether you're using your finger or one of these tiny popsicle sticks, Hysol tends to stick to itself more than, say, just this wood. So if you're trying to do a fillet, when you do it once, it'll work really good, but if you try to come back in and hit it again with that blob of Hysol in the end that you kind of wiped away, the Hysol will stick and it'll drag it. So when I do it, I just lightly come in and do the motion, and then I wipe it off, and then I do it again. And that tends to make a really nice fillet without removing too much of the Hysol that you want on there. So yeah, it took me a while to get that. If you can practice on like 90-degree pieces of like wood or really anything, it's really helpful to get a little bit of practice in and see how Hysol kind of moves when you're trying to do fillets and stuff. So get some like 2x4, some scrap wood, or maybe some plywood, and do some Hysol like along the corner and then try to do a fillet multiple times. Do it maybe like 15 times, or if you can. If you can only do it a couple times, that's better than nothing. But really practice that, because I'm getting pretty all right at it. I'd say mine don't look quite as good as the factories, but I think the factory does a finger in denatured alcohol, and they just go over it with their finger. So it tends to have a bit better of a shape. And maybe mine will look a little nicer once it's set up. But either way, the Hysol's on. I'm gonna let it do its thing. Anyway, guys, have a good one. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you want to. Comments down below. Love answering your questions or seeing if any of this helped. So, till next time. All right. Hey guys, how's it going? I just want to add on to the end of the last video I did, where I put the #1 rib on, and say that I should have done this with that rib. It shouldn't make a huge difference for just that rib. And what I did do is I did come in when I put the rest of the assembly on and glued that. I did put this on, and everything should be fine. For the left wing, I will check the dihedral again. The sweep should be the same. But I will check it just to make sure. It should be fine, just one rib. But I'm gonna leave the strut on until after the fuel tank's glued in. Because I know the fuel tank will probably affect the dihedral more than just that #1 rib assembly. So here's the #1 rib assembly. The clamps are unnecessary at this point. It's been dry for over a day now. So this guy is pretty much done.